Yo, what's up, all you Burnstones and Potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
I love it. Hey, all you vipers out there in the world, if you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. And Mrs. Weedman and I are smoking some melted strawberries given to us by our friend Midwest Terps. Thank you, Midwest Terps, for throwing to the cause. And melted strawberries is an evenly balanced hybrid strain, 50-50, created through crossing the classic GMO and strawberry guava strains. When it comes to the flavor of this bud, the name says it all. Melted strawberries packs a tasty, exactly how you'd picture. Sweet and fruity strawberries extended by tongue-tingling, pungent, dank, and spicy herbs. The aroma is on the heavier side with the undertone of sweet strawberries extended by super spicy herbs and dank pungency. The melted strawberries will hit you almost as soon as you exhale, rushing into your mind with an out-of-this-world cerebral euphoria. This heady state can quickly turn psychedelic, so mind your dosage if you suffer from any sort of anxiety. At the same time, a calming body high will settle over you physically form, looking you to the couch while your mind flies further and further into a heady oblivion. With these effects, its super high can range between 24 and 32% average THC level. Melted strawberries is often chosen to treat conditions such as chronic stress or PTSD, depression, mood swings, chronic pain, and muscle spasms or cramps. This bud has long tapered forest green nugs with lots of yellow-orange hairs, golden undertones, and a coating of frosty golden white crystal trichomes. The effects: body high, calming euphoria, happy, relaxing, and uplifting. Relieve symptoms of chronic pain, cramps, depression, muscle spasms, PTSD, and stress. The flavors are berry, fruity, herbal, sage, spicy, strawberry, and sweet. And then the aromas are dark, earthy, fruity, pungent, spicy, strawberry, and sweet. And that is melted strawberries given to us by our friend Midwest Terps. And I have a feeling they're going to be on the show soon. What do you think, Ms. Weedman?
Maybe. I don't know. Something in the air told me they might be around here.
We love E&T when they come by the house and hang. So we're going to be seeing them real soon here. We've been smoking this strain a lot because Midwest Terps gave us a nice big bag full, and we've been bringing this around with us to parties because it is a little bit more of a sativa. And when we go to parties, we want to be lifted, right? Mm-hmm. And you actually really, really like this strain.
I enjoy it.
You enjoy it a lot. What is some of the feelings that you get when you smoke this strain?
Just relaxing, and a lot of Midwest Terps strains I find are uplifting and creative. I was painting the other night. Very pungent too, smoking smelly. A bunch, yeah. Yeah,
you're painting. You did a great job painting when you were smoking that weed. You were into it. I came upstairs and you were looking like Picasso over there.
Now. Slow down there, Mr. Weedman.
Mrs. Weedman Picasso.
Not quite. It was more on the realm of crafty.
Yes, you're very crafty. She's crafty.
Well, no. That's not what I'm saying I want to be.
No.
I'm saying what I was doing was more crafty.
More crafty?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were still painting. It still takes a lot to paint by numbers.
Yes, Mr. Weedman.
Oh, shit. Hey, everybody, don't forget to check out 8decades.com, Mrs. Weedman's baby. Check out 8decades.com for all your cannabis accessory needs. We have our awesome tray set. We have the jar set. We have grinders. We have pins, and we have stickers, and we have an awesome clothing line, 8 Decades clothing line, Weedman 420 clothing line. We have, what else did I miss? Grinders, jars, everything, right?
All the goods.
All the goods.
Tote bags, scarves, hats. Yes. Not quite the season for either, but they're great. Start your Christmas shopping early.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you spend $100, you get free shipping.
Yes, you do.
I'd like to thank everybody who supported. And also, we have a new account.
Yes,
We'd like to thank Block Forest Park for adding us to your accessory line over there. Yes. You went there today.
We're now in 3 of their locations. I set up in Forest Park today, and they have their soft launch later this week. And their grand opening is on the
21st, I believe. June 21st. Okay. I think their soft opening is the 4th or the 5th of June.
Right.
And then there's, I think, 21st.
The 21st, I think you're right.
Yeah, I believe is their grand opening. I'd like to thank all the fam at the Block dispensaries for taking care of us and bringing us into their stores and making sure that they give us great display spots. And
really nice stores too. Always, like, all of them are in really great locations. Decor is great. Their variety, their selection of inventory is great, and the staff has been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So
yes, I like to
should be good.
Thank the whole staff that we are now in Metropolis, Block Metropolis, Block Forest Park, and Block Avondale.
Yes,
right.
Yep.
And that's northern Chicago,
down in the city.
Yeah, down in the city, up on the north side. So thank you, Block, for really, really supporting Mrs. Weedman and I, and we really appreciate it. And go check out their dispensaries. They got great peeps working there. So we got done watching the final episode of The Handmaid's Tale, and I was disappointed.
I was disappointed too.
There should have been like either another season.
Yeah,
that should have been the end.
The end just was not sufficient.
Yeah, I mean
for the actions and the horrific things that happened to these characters and how adamant they were about bettering life, but more importantly, getting their natural children back.
Yes.
The ending just didn't do enough.
The second to last episode was amazing.
Yeah.
That
I mean, they
ending,
wrapped up a lot, but
they didn't wrap
the
up
core subject.
Right. Was
the
her
kids,
finding her daughter.
Right.
Hannah.
Don't be a spoiler.
I'm not spoiling
Don't be a
that.
spoiler.
They all know
Don't
she was trying to find Hannah.
Yes, everybody knows she's trying to find Hannah.
Right.
So when you watch the final episode, you'll know exactly what I'm saying.
WTF.
Like, really?
You're like, what?
Really?
This is how it ends?
What?
It can't end right now. You need another season. I just don't believe they're going to end it. There's just no way they can end it the way they ended it.
It can come back as like a whole different show. It could be like a different angle of the story.
Right.
Like the afterlife.
Right.
Of Gilead.
Right. Yeah, that would be fun to watch too. But I was disappointed.
And I think it could get annoying because some of the characters were. I was kind of done with them. I was done with Luke. I was kind of done with June. There were some other people that was like, all right, already.
I just like Aunt Lydia. She's my fave. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, wait a minute, what?
I'm just kidding.
I liked her when she fell down the stairs.
She reminded me of an old nun of mine that when I went to Catholic school in the good old Bronx, New York. She reminded me of Sister Mary Stanislaus. And that was Stanislaus.
Oh, Stanislaus.
And that's what I believe 100% that was her last name. And she was mean, boy. She slapped me one time. Yeah. So Aunt Lydia reminded me. It kind of looked like Aunt Lydia, just maybe about 20 years older. So, and she was a mean
lady.
nun. Just mean. Just
there were some mean ones.
Ooh, boy.
One nun.
She called me retarded.
Oh.
She
they had a tendency
she
to
literally
do things like
grabbed me by the chest. Mm-hmm. I went down the wrong alley. It was snowing out and stuff like that. I went down the wrong alley and she called me over and she grabbed me by the chest. Now, this is like a 75-year-old woman, and I was taller than her in 7th grade. Mm-hmm. All right? I was taller than her in 7th grade.
She smacked you?
She grabbed me by my shirt and literally slapped me and said, "Are you retarded? Didn't you hear the announcement?"
Dang. That shit would not happen these days. We lived a different kind of life. Especially like through high school.
Oh, yeah.
The world was a very different place.
Very different place. I got
place.
slapped by Sister Mary Stanislaus. Yeah. And she reminded that's why I think I had
Sister
nightmares about Lydia.
We would always joke because she never wore a bra and she wore really high-waisted polyester skirts with her blouse tucked in, of course, like many nuns did. But her boobs would like go down to her knees practically. So we used to laugh like, I think she puts them in her sleeve at night when she's sleeping so they don't get caught up underneath her. So then like my visual all the time while she was teaching was that inside her sleeves were boobs moving her. Well, she, same nun, stuck my sister in a locker. Now my sister had a mouth. She had a mouth. She was feisty. She had a tendency to get herself in trouble.
She didn't get called retarded though.
Oh, she probably got called some things. I think she was a little bitch or something, and she got shoved in a locker.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
shit. That's crazy. Getting slapped by and beat up by nuns.
That same sister has a whole, like, she could write maybe a book, different chapters for the different nuns that she had assault instances with. Her versus nuns.
So what was your nun's name?
Oh, Sister Cornelius.
Okay, mine was Sister Mary Stanislaus.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Pretty powerful nun names right there.
Yeah,
Cornelius
Stanislaus.
And Stanislaus.
Yeah, I think you've got a little interpretation mixed in there.
I wonder who would win in a battle royale.
Cornelius.
No, I think Sister Mary Stanislaus would bowl her over. I would love.
I want to know really how Sister Mary Stanislaus's name is spelled because I know that you have.
The way I heard it. That's the way I said it.
I had one teacher. So I went to all Catholic schools through high school. You know that.
Yes.
And one of my lay teachers, so a non-nun teacher, in fourth grade, she would not write my name the right way. And it was just this battle.
Last name or first name?
My last name.
Oh.
She would spell it wrong. She'd say it wrong. I'd write it phonetically on my paper. I'd write it a different way phonetically on my paper. Like, I don't understand. You're like reversing letters.
Did she spell it like
And
Cooley?
she never would
Did
even.
she spell it like Cooley and say Cooley?
No.
Oh, okay.
But she wouldn't even acknowledge it to me in person.
Oh, really?
She would just continue to do it.
She wasn't even a nun, and she was mean.
It was just mean. But she was like a nice person. I just didn't understand why. Like, maybe she had an issue where she couldn't say it, but why wouldn't she pull me aside and say something to me?
Maybe she didn't like you.
I think she didn't.
She didn't like you.
Susan Kalich. Like, my name isn't Kalich. What the heck is Kalich? Fuck. I was so mad. That started like the righting the wrongs of my personality, I think. Like, that was kind of the beginning.
Oh, no.
Of things that just aren't cool.
And
that I recognized at a young age, and I
I
wanted to change these things. And I did it in a very, I thought, like an okay way. I would just write it on the paper. Like, my name is not, and I'd spell it phonetically the way
Right.
she'd say it. My name is, and I'd spell it phonetically the right way.
Now, here's why she didn't ever said it right. Because you tried to correct a teacher.
Well, she should have been a better teacher.
Well, I mean...
Come on. What's the big deal? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to work on saying it the right way.
There was a
You're a
movie-
fourth grade teacher. I think you like children, right? You chose this career.
I really wish I
How
remember
hard
this
is
movie's name, but there was the teacher calling out roll call, and he was calling students by the wrong name, and the name I'll never forget was A.A. Ron.
A.A. Ron.
A.A. Ron.
Instead of Aaron.
A.A. Ron. Is there an A.A. Ron here?
You say that. Whenever you see the name Aaron, you're like, A.A. Ron.
It's from, I cannot remember the name of the movie, but he got everybody's names wrong and said it just the way he would pronounce it. And
I have seen that. I know. Yeah.
And oh my
Yeah.
God, it was one of the funniest scenes ever. But the AA Ron will always be a place in my
Yes.
heart. So I mean, there's teachers out there that just phonetically say it, and they
Yeah.
don't want to be, because the students tried to correct the teacher, and he went nuts. And he broke his clipboard. He threw shit off his desk.
He
That was the
lost his
movie. So
shit.
maybe you correcting her,
Yeah.
she lost her
She
shit.
lost her shit. I wonder if she just hated me then.
Maybe.
Like, she
Don't
just,
ever correct a teacher. You should know better.
I didn't embarrass her. I didn't say it in front of anybody.
I know.
I think I'd say it to everybody. She won't say my name the right way.
It's the end of the school year.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things is the spelling bee that comes on every year.
Yes,
Love
yes,
the spelling
yes.
bee. And I want to see how I can't spell words. I can't even pronounce words, literally try to spell words. So, I mean, I'm lost on this word. But this young human named Faison, I like that name too. Faison Zaki.
Mm-hmm.
Cool ass name, first and foremost. Faison. Hey, what's your name? Faison Zaki, motherfucker. It's a really cool name.
He looks like a nice kid. I don't think he's going to say it
No,
like that.
ever. But he spelt this word.
Yeah, let me see how close I can get.
Okay.
What is it?
Exclaircement.
Well,
It's French, so I'm not saying it with the French, because I listened to the word. I'm saying it the way I would say it. So exclaircement. Exclaircement.
now I'm taking this from someone who mispronounces words all the time.
Yes, and
so
it's
how
French.
am I going to spell it the right way? It's French. Is it a verb, adjective, noun?
I did look it up. Hold on. Practice it in your head for a
and
second.
then you have to know, like, what is the origin of the word?
Okay, I will let you know. That's if you ask that, though. 'cause
No,
only-
they give them all of those.
Oh, do they?
They like say the word.
Okay. So it's it is French.
French.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn my phone up so you can at least hear the word.
Éclaircissement.
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 Yeah, right.
Right. So
Now that's worse. I think I could spell it better when
So,
you said it.
right, that's why I said it my way, because you
How
understand my language. So it's hold on. I'm looking up the meaning for you.
Come on.
It's French.
Mm-hmm.
Its first known use was 1667, and the meaning defined above, which is it doesn't have the meaning. Oh, a clearing up of something obscure. A clearing up of something obscure. Esclarecimiento.
All right, so I read the article, so I can vaguely remember visually.
Okay.
And it was like eclair, but with an
Right,
Esclair.
Nah.
Oh, I'm already
Go ahead. Start again. One more time.
ESC.
Nope.
Oh, no. ECL.
Yep. Yep.
AIRCCISMENT.
Nope. One more time.
Oh, I don't know.
All right. ECLAIRCISSEMENT. You said why would you say double C? What word do you know that has a
cement?
Well, we both know we can't outspell a seventh grader for sure.
They do a lot of work.
And we definitely are not as cool.
They do a lot of training.
We're
not as cool as this kid, though.
We're not as cool as Faison Zaki.
No.
That name is just totally cool.
Yeah. And now he could say that he won the Scripps spelling bee. Lucky kid.
And I just saw too the chess world tournament.
Oh.
The champion has been dethroned.
World
Championship. Magnus was the champion.
Ooh,
and he was
Magnus,
a beast. He
of
beat like
course.
100 people at
How
one
old?
time. I don't know, he looked like in his young 30s, maybe
Do they
early
like
20s.
break it down into age groups?
No.
Like, could it be a kid
No.
playing
But
a very senior person?
Probably. It's anybody who can play in the world tournament.
Oh.
Yeah, and he
long
lost
as you make
his
it.
title. The champ
Ooh,
came
how
down.
old was he? You
I
don't know?
think he's like late 20s, early 30s.
Huh.
But he was pissed. He was very mad. I
He
watched
had
the
it
video
for a
when he
bit?
lost. Oh, for a while. He's been unstoppable for a long time. And he made one mistake, and he knew the mistake that he made, and he lost.
And he lost?
He slammed his
He's
hand
just
down.
so mad. Did he wipe the board off the table?
He wanted to. It's a Magnus.
Got to have some. I mean,
Magnus
with that
is
name,
down.
you got to be a little.
And that's a
dramatic.
cool name too, but not as cool as Faison Zaki. I like that name. So cool. You ready to get the show started?
Yeah, let's do it.
The hidden crisis plaguing cannabis and how to fix it. The cannabis industry is facing a serious mold crisis that's devastating to cannabis businesses. Contaminated cannabis products are making their way onto dispensary shelves, aided in part by testing laboratories manipulating results to help products pass state-mandated state threshold, a scandal increasingly referred to as LabGate. Despite regulatory requirements, some labs overlook dangerous mold counts to protect the business relationships, resulting in unsafe flower making its way into the marketplace for cultivators. A failed test means financial loss. As flagged products and systems like Metric must be remediated, extracted, or chucked completely, leading to price erosion and reduced profit margins. At the heat of the crisis are inconsistent state regulations and weak enforcement. But while headlines focus on lab fraud and product recalls, there's less conversation about viable solutions. But there are two key fixes. Enforce existing state-mandated regulatory requirements for mold, or cultivators adopt a post-harvest decontamination protocol as part of their standard operating procedures, ensuring flower is free of harmful pathogens before reaching consumers. Mold contamination is a widespread issue. Although state require cannabis testing, enforcement is inconsistent, and some labs are complicit in ignoring high mold counts due to the impact it could have on their business. Massachusetts is currently losing its fight with mold. In February of 2025, the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission issued a consumer safety alert after mold-contaminated flower was found in retail stores. The issue isn't limited to lab malpractice. Cannabis businesses also contributed to the problem by pressuring labs to pass contaminated products or by employing unsafe cultivation practices. The cannabis worker in Massachusetts recounted being told to pick the moldy pieces off and put the rest of it into a container to be sold. The mold problem is not unique to just Massachusetts. In Colorado, businesses are permitted to self-select in samples they send to third-party labs. These labs often decontaminated prior to testing. Sneaky. Or companies partner with labs known to produce favorable results. Alarming, some companies skip testing altogether, choosing instead to pay fines rather than protect consumer safety. This trend signals the financial penalties alone are not enough of a deterrent. Regulatory oversight fails to keep pace. While some states like California require labs, not growers, to collect test samples to ensure they're representatives of a given batch, oversight still falls short. A whistleblower lawsuit filed a former state lab regulator alleges she was terminated for pressing California's Department of Cannabis Control to investigate claims of pesticide-contaminated cannabis. Across the country, products recalls due to mold, pesticides, and other contaminants are becoming more common, exposing the vulnerabilities in state testing systems. Signs of progress in cannabis safety. Some states are beginning to address the issue with meaningful reforms. New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission recently adopted new rules to strengthen product testing. These include reducing batch sizes from 100 to 33.07 pounds to ensure more representative sampling, banning lab shopping, and standardizing testing methods for mold, pesticides, and heavy metals. In California, the newly formed nonprofit Environment and Consumer Compliance Organization provides an independent certification for clean cannabis. Participating companies agree to random monthly testing and unannounced product sampling from dispensary shelves. So far, 13 companies have joined since ECCO began operations in January of 2025, signaling a growing commitment to consumer safety and transparency. The case for technology-based decontamination. Regulators must either more strictly enforce microbial regulations, or the industry must proactively implement a microbial decontamination step before product reaches testing labs. Mold is an unavoidable part of agriculture production. It spreads by air, water, and human contact. Even the most sanitized grow rooms can't guarantee total mold prevention. That's why a decontamination step akin to milk pasteurization is critical for product safety. But adoption of decontamination step is spotty because it's not mandated by state regulations. Make it easy for growers to skip the extra step. Fortunately, technologies like radio frequency treatment is providing an effective and non-invasive solution. Radio frequency technology, unlike chemical or irradiation,
Irradiation.
Thank you, based remediation, which can alter the product's taste, smell, or potency. Radio frequency technology eliminates mold and bacteria while preserving the flower quality. There's a company that has created the machine that have a greater than 99% pass rate and treat up to 160 pounds of cannabis per 8-hour shift. Without using gas, chemicals, or x-rays, this offers a consistent, scalable solution to mold decontamination. That's pretty interesting technology right there.
Yes, it is.
Industry-wide action on LabGate is long overdue. While scandals like LabGate dominate headlines, effective solutions like microbial decontamination technology and stronger regulatory frameworks remain outside the conversation. It's time for regulators, labs, and businesses alike to prioritize public health and industry integrity, whether through stronger oversight to proactive microbial control. The tools to fix this problem already exist. The question is whether the industry will choose to use them. Yes, mold is a big issue. You don't want to smoke it, eat it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not good.
It's bad for your lungs.
Yes, but you also don't want remediated weed either, because you lose everything that's good about it. So it's just a catch-22. So hopefully more research can be done about that radio frequency.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Woo-hoo. Men are more likely than women to smoke marijuana. I don't really believe that, but because I smoke with you every night, and you out smoke me sometimes now. So while females prefer cannabis edibles, drinks, and lotions, this federal study shows, and also this is correlating with another article you're going to be reading in a few minutes too.
Yes,
so
it is.
It correlates kind of with both.
Yep. A new report from a federal agency examines the various modes of marijuana consumption preferred by Americans, finding that while smoking remains the most common method overall, it's far more popular among male consumers than female ones. Among male consumers aged 12 and older, 19.8% said their most common mode of consumption is smoking, compared to 14.3% of female users. That's according to an assessment of nationwide responses to the 2022 and 2023 editions of the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. I don't know who that goes to. I've never gotten one. How do you get those?
I don't know. I want to know.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds.
Yes, want to know. Female consumers were significantly more likely than males to report using topicals, including lotion, cream, and transdermal patches, with 2.5% of females reporting them as their preferred mode of use, compared to 1.2% of male respondents. Among people who used marijuana in the past year, the report says, males were more likely than females to smoke marijuana in every age group except for adolescents aged 12 to 17, whereas females were more likely than males to eat or drink their marijuana. Other methods comparatively popular among female users were oral drops, lozenges, or sprays, while male consumers more frequently reported inhaled methods such as vaping or dabbing cannabis
They
concentrates.
need to come and hang out with the people we hang out with because the women are fucking monster cloud blowers.
Other findings from the survey analysis published this month by the Center for Behavioral Health Statistics and Quality, part of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, include that 44.9% of consumers most commonly used a single method of consumption, while 27.5% said they used two methods, and another 27.6% who said they used three or more. Sticking to a single mode of consumption was more common among older marijuana users, while younger ones were generally more likely to use two methods or more. Regardless of sex, young adults aged 18 to 25 who used marijuana in the past year were more likely to smoke it, says the new report. A separate report published earlier this year by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention similarly found that while smoking marijuana remains the most common way to consume it, methods such as eating, vaping, and dabbing are growing in popularity. That report looked at data from Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, an annual nationwide telephone survey of people 18 and older. Specifically, it unpacks responses from an optional marijuana module that was included in the 2022 survey. Notably, the use of that module was the first time since 2016 that the survey allowed for the selection of multiple methods of use. From 2017 through 2021, marijuana modules permitted only a single method of use. Comparing 2022 results to those in 2016 reveals that the prevalences of eating and vaping marijuana were each higher in 2022, authors wrote, as was the prevalence of reporting multiple routes of use. Another analysis from the CDC found that rates of current and lifetime cannabis use among high school students have continued to drop amid the legalization movement. A separate poll recently found that more Americans smoke marijuana on a daily basis than drink alcohol every day. Yay. While U.S. adults who drink alcohol are nearly 3 times as likely to say they'd be better off reducing their alcohol intake compared to marijuana consumers, the survey found. Further, it found that while lifetime and monthly alcohol drinking among adults was far more common than cannabis use, daily marijuana consumption was slightly more popular than daily drinking. An earlier report published in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol and Drugs found that secondhand harm caused by marijuana use is far less prevalent than that of alcohol, with respondents reporting secondhand harm from drinking at nearly 6 times the rate that they did for cannabis.
There was just another article. I don't know if I have it or if I'm going to read it, but it was about alcohol versus THC, which we've talked about so many times, that how alcohol at the end of drinking makes people very mean at the end of it versus
like into their night of consumption or their day of consumption. The more intoxicated they are, the meaner they get.
Meaner or
just belligerent,
foul, or don't want to listen.
Yeah.
But with people that smoke cannabis, they compare it to as just being
it's so
just go
different.
with the flow kind of thing, so different. And chill. That's basically what they said. You can either be, when you see someone that's drunk, you watch their whole, they become a totally different person. When you see somebody on cannabis, they are that person.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah. And cannabis makes people a lot more happier. And I'm not saying alcohol doesn't. I've been a fun buzzer. Let's just say I'm fun when I'm buzzy. You know, but it comes to that point where I know when I've drank too much, I get a little nasty. My one-liners they become dickish, let's just say, versus being a fun one-liner where you're directing it at somebody when you're drunk versus saying it out to the open so everybody can laugh when you're buzzy. There's just a difference. And
I know there's.
Right. So, and you know, some people like that Some people don't, but it's just, you could just see the difference between the two. So, and especially men and women too, between weed and drinking, all right. This has been all over the fucking internet, TV. It's just like every news article within the last 10 days since probably the last episode. This is just this study that uncovered troubling news about a health risk using cannabis. I mean, if you have not
all over the news.
You even said it. You like how many news stations have you said you saw it on?
Multiple.
Right. And I've read probably 35 different well, I wouldn't say they're different. They're just the same article rewritten by somebody about what they found. Mm-hmm. And I said this on a prior episode. It's like Reefer Madness 2.0 all over again. They're just looking and looking and looking to find something wrong with this plant. They ain't looking to find anything wrong with psychedelics right now. Everything is all positive and fucking roses and candy and chocolates. But still, cannabis to this day still gets beaten up. They're looking, it's the undisputed champ. Undisputed for 10,000 years. And they still want to beat this fucking poor plant to the ground and stomp on it. It's just fucking brutal. It's just upsetting. I was sitting last night doing the show. I do usually do the show on Monday nights, put the show together for Mrs. Weedman and I for our recording on Tuesday. And I had in my index box, because I sent them all, I had at least 25 articles about this cannabis health risk. So I'm going to read one from Green State, because it was, to me, the most positive one versus everyone just beating it down. And on news too. I mean, so many of the mag rags and the news rags, and it's just like, and even on fucking TikTok, who doesn't allow cannabis, anything.
But they were talking about the news.
People were talking about it. This
because
research.
It was tentatively
education.
Because it was uncovering something bad that cannabis is doing. So it had more of like a dramatic
And I think
effect.
if you can do educational only stuff about cannabis on TikTok, they normally don't ban it. So of course the negative stuff, they're going to be like, yeah, give me, because it's banned in China. So they're probably loving it, and TikTok's a Chinese owned app. So just like, and you get caught with weed there, you're losing your penis or your fucking toe or whatever, or your ear, your
those
nose.
Are really different.
You're losing something.
Extremities.
External.
Toe,
lower,
penis,
upper.
They're kind of the same.
They're cutting it all off. They're cutting each piece off.
Whatever's hanging out. Whatever's out there. Chop, chop.
Oh my God. It's just like, all right, so let's get into it. Researchers at the University or UC San Francisco published a study last Wednesday that found troubling cardiovascular risks linked to using cannabis, even for people who avoid smoking cannabis entirely. Now, they're doing this with smoking and edibles, both. The study tested 55 people from the Bay Area. Well, there's your first mistake. You only tested 55 people, and all from one area. So, to see if their cardiovascular function was different depending on whether they used smoked cannabis, used cannabis edibles, or abstained from cannabis entirely. The research found that regular cannabis users, both edible users and cannabis smokers, had reduced cardiovascular function and increased risk of developing premature heart disease. All right. Sorry, excuse me. I've been smoking weed for a very long time. And I would say about 75% of the people I hang out with and have known most of my life smoke weed and have probably the same age when I started. And all of them are in great, well, I wouldn't say all of them. A lot of them are in good health. Some of them are in great health. Some of them are in bad health, but that's not because of cannabis. It's just because of how they eat and how their lifestyle is. I have not seen anybody that I know of personally, and I know a lot of people, especially in the cannabis industry, that has premature heart disease from using cannabis.
Okay, so I'm just going to intervene here because
I want you to.
Mr. Weedman just doesn't want there to be a single bad word spoken about weed. So he's going to justify.
I'm going to try to.
But here's the deal. It's important that they research.
I know.
To figure these things out.
I know.
We don't know of any risks for cannabis because it's never been studied in the ways
There's 33,000 research papers since 2014.
I understand that, but they've demonstrated its benefits for cancer. They've demonstrated its benefits for sleep and pain management, and in some instances weight loss, because a lot of people who switch to cannabis from alcohol, let's just say, they get healthy, they get more active, and they become just healthier people.
Right.
And just there's been study after study that has shown physically that people are just like cannabis consumers tend to be healthier people. There's a good percentage of them
Right.
that are healthy. So all of the information is important, and I think that so at the end of the day, when the news was reporting this whole story this week, oh my gosh, cannabis could be associated with diminished arteries, or
it just has reduced cardiovascular function,
right? But then
and increased risk of developing premature heart disease.
But this is a very early study,
right,
and they need more research.
Right.
Just like
that's what I'm aggravated about.
But that's everything that
and that's
we
what
read.
I'm justifying.
Right.
Why I'm justifying it.
I get it. Like it's not a great piece of research, but it's made the news everywhere.
Right. The study joins a growing body of evidence that chronic cannabis use could be damaging cannabis users' cardiovascular system. A 2024 study evaluating a study in 2024. This is not the first study.
Right.
A study in 2024 evaluating survey data found that daily marijuana use was associated with 25% increase in the risk of heart attack and 42% increased risk of stroke. But this is one of the first studies that measured cardiovascular function in healthy adults who strictly used cannabis edibles without smoking. Edibles. According to the UCSF researcher and lead author Leela Mohammadi, the findings that even people using only THC edibles without smoking still show signs of cardiovascular damage surprised Matthew Springer, a UCSF researcher and another author of the study. Edibles have been seen as possibly less likely to damage the heart, according to a 2020 recommendation by the American Heart Association. When I first saw the THC result, I said to Leela, scientifically, the THC result is really interesting, but boy, does it screw up the public health messaging, Springer said. The UCSF study tested cardiovascular function with two-part test. First, they conducted ultrasounds of an artery in each subject arm to see how blood flow changed after being constricted with a blood pressure cuff. The ultrasound study found that both cannabis smokers and cannabis edibles users had arteries with lower dilation rates compared to people who did not consume cannabis. The study then examined body serum from test subjects to see how it reacted to I can't pronounce this one, I'm going to spell it, ENDOTHELIAL cells, which regulate blood flow. The test found that cannabis smokers, but not edible users, produced less nitric oxide levels, which is an indicator of cardiovascular health. The drop in nitric oxide levels seen in marijuana smokers was similar to early research on the effects of smoking tobacco, according to the study. Springer said the fact that the edibles only users showed signs of damage on the dilution test, but not on the nitric oxide test, while cannabis smokers showed damage on both tests, shows that THC alone without smoking could be directly damaging the vascular system. He said that it could be evidence that smoking marijuana could be causing a double whammy of the negative effects on the heart health. The study authors tested all subjects for nicotine exposure to make sure there was none of the participants used tobacco. Taken together, these findings indicate that using THC is associated with increased risk of developing heart disease early, according to the study. The study did not prove a causal relationship between consuming THC and heart disease, but Springer said that because the latest study found early warning signs of heart disease in healthy subjects, that confirms early studies. We can pretty much confident that cannabis use causes damage to cardiovascular system. I'll read it one more time. We can be pretty confident that cannabis use causes damage to cardiovascular system.
We can be pretty confident.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
I don't think how medical data is usually written.
Right. That's why I read it twice, and it's in quotes too.
That's like shrugging your shoulders. I think it could be pretty.
We can pretty confident is in quotes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. I think. Yeah.
Here's the quotes I like to use.
Like 55.
There's
people.
the quotes I like to use. If you see on YouTube, I gave them the bird, 2 of them.
They should be reporting. Really, at the end of the day, what gets you is that they choose that as the big story for cannabis because it's negative,
right?
But it's a very it's not a great study,
right? So you ready?
Yeah.
Benjamin Kaplan, a Massachusetts medical doctor who specializes in medical cannabis use, said in an email that the study raises important questions, but falls short of providing convincing evidence of cardiovascular damage from cannabis use.
There you go, Mr. Weedman.
Kaplan said that the study did not control for what specific cannabis product subjects use or their diet, body mass index, or lifestyle factors, and contained only women in the edible group. Only women in the edible group, which those women had a lot of fun, which he said limits the generalized ability. Dr. Benjamin Kaplan, if you're ever in Chicago and you'd love to come on the Weedman 420 Chronicles show, I would love to have you on to talk about this. It'd be amazing. Please, if you're ever in Chicago on something, hit us up. The study says nothing about what happens when cannabis is used thoughtfully in low doses under medical supervision as part of the broader care plan. Kaplan said, it doesn't reflect the patients I see. Older adults tapering off opioids, cancer survivors managing pain, or anxious individuals finally sleeping through the night. It's a narrow lens applied to a very broad subject. The study's subjects were all regular users who used cannabis at least 3 times a week, and the cardiovascular harm was stronger for people who used more THC a week, which Springer said is a sign that even using less cannabis could spare users from the heaviest cardiovascular harm. It really does seem like the more you take, the worse it is. Mrs. Weedman and I just gave our opinion a little bit more on this, but I just think they need to be more research. They need to have what that other doctor said from Massachusetts about what was their BMI, what was their weight, what did they eat, how was their lifestyle.
Do they all consume the same amount?
Is there a family history of heart disease and cardiovascular disease in their family?
Blood work before.
Right. What did they eat? Did they eat a bunch of McDonald's fries? Did their arteries are their arteries already clogged?
Well, I get you.
You feel me?
I feel you, Mr. Weedman.
Yeah.
I do.
So I'm going to butcher this word.
Yeah.
Do you want to just do the introduction then?
Sure.
Thank you. For the title, go ahead.
Cannabis Pangenome reveals potential.
I would have got it right.
Yeah.
All right, good.
For medicinal and industrial use. So what is a pangenome? I don't know. Well, while best known today as marijuana for its psychoactive cannabinoid, THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, historically, cannabis has been a cornerstone of human civilization, providing seed oil, textiles, and food for over 10,000 years. Today, cannabis remains an understudied and underutilized resource, but United States legislation passed in 2014 and 2018 have re-energized cannabis crop development for medicinal, grain, and fiber applications. Researchers from the Salk Institute have created the most comprehensive, high-quality, and detailed genetic atlas of cannabis to date. The team analyzed 193 different cannabis genomes, which are entire sets of genetic information, revealing an unprecedented diversity, complexity, and untapped opportunity within this foundational agricultural species. This landmark achievement was the result of a multi-year collaboration with Oregon CBD, Oregon State University, and the Hudson Alpha Institute of Biotechnology. The findings published in Nature this May set the stage for transformative advances in cannabis-based agriculture, medicine, and industry. Quote, cannabis is one of the most extraordinary plants on earth. Despite its global importance as a source of medicine, food, seed oil, and fiber for at least the last 10,000 years, it remains one of the least developed major crops of modern times, largely due to a near century of legal restrictions, says Todd Michael, senior author of the study and research professor at Salk. Our team constructed the most complete genetic map, or pangenome, of the plant to date by analyzing nearly 200 diverse cannabis genomes, showing that we are just starting to see the full potential of this amazing plant. Those same legal restrictions spurred an underground breeding revolution, revealing cannabis's power as a chemical factory. With this new genomic blueprint, we can now apply modern breeding to unlock novel compounds and traits across agriculture, medicine, and biotechnology. Enters GMO. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. Cannabis sativa, also known as hemp, is a flowering plant native to Asia. Cannabis has many unique features that have made it a prominent crop over the course of human history, like its ability to produce strong fibers for textiles, or its medicinal qualities stemming from it being one of the few plants to make high quantities of cannabinoids. Innovators today suggest that cannabis oil could rival canola or soybean with the right breeding, or that cannabis derivatives could even be used as a sustainable alternative to jet fuel.
Damn.
Cannabis is a chemical powerhouse. It can produce more than 30% by dry weight as terpenes and cannabinoids, small chemicals that the plant makes, to protect against predators. Yet humans leverage it for mood-altering purposes. Terpenes create the exquisite aromas that attract us to fruits and flowers, while cannabinoids interact with the human body to provide many therapeutic properties. One cannabinoid, the non-psychedelic cannabidiol, or CBD, expanded the public's view of cannabis when the Charlotte's Web strain was used to treat epileptic seizures. CBD, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and more than 100 other poorly studied cannabinoids have been used to treat a variety of ailments, including pain, arthritis, nausea, asthma, depression, and anxiety. Importantly, the impact that selective breeding has had on cannabis's genomic diversity has remained a mystery. Solving this mystery has proven difficult since cannabis has a complicated genome. First, cannabis is among less than 5% of plants to have distinct male and female sexes on separate plants. Second, cannabis genomes contain many transposable elements, which are repetitive stretches of DNA that can jump around the genome and are thus difficult to track. There are limits to what you can discover with short-read sequencing technologies, or short-read sequencing technologies, since those short genetic excerpts are impossible to stitch together in any meaningful way when looking at complex regions of the genome, especially repetitive DNA sequences, says co-first author Lillian Paget Cobb, a postdoctoral researcher in Michael's lab. Where this new study stands apart is its completeness. It contains the most genomes yet and is the first to include sex chromosomes and, relatedly, the first to have haplotype resolution, whatever that is. Cannabis is a diploid plant. This means that, like humans, it contains two sets of chromosomes, one set inherited from a male plant and the other from a female plant.
They're dioecious.
Yeah. While most genomes published to date have only been able to decode one chromosome, the team resolved both sets of cannabis chromosomes. By looking at both chromosome sets, the researchers revealed an unprecedented amount of genetic variation, possibly up to 20 times that of humans. With this resolution, Paget Cobb explains, we can look at what was inherited from just one of the parent plants and start to understand the breeding and background of the plant. The team's study collected genomes from 144 different cannabis plants from around the world to assemble 193 total genomes, 181 of which had never been cataloged before. Collectively, these many genomes make up the Pangenome, which was analyzed to understand the full extent of genetic diversity within the cannabis species. The high quality of the collected genomes allowed the researchers to resolve previously unseen genetic patterns, including the archetype of genes responsible for cannabinoid synthesis, and by incorporating sex chromosomes, a first look at cannabis Y chromosomes. Their first discovery was that there is unexpected diversity within the species. Across the Pangenome, 23% of genes were found in every genome. 55% were nearly universal, and less than 1% were entirely unique. Some of the most universal genes were those that produced cannabinoids. While cannabinoid genes were consistent across genomes, genes related to fatty acid metabolism, growth, and defense were not. These variable genes are an untapped breeding pool, and their selective breeding could also make cannabis more robust in the field or improve the nutritional content of hemp oil to make it a competitor among existing seed oils. GMO.
Mm-hmm.
Notably, The research team discovered that structural variations in the fatty acid biosynthetic pathway contributes to the production of tetrahydrocannabivarin, or THCV, a rare cannabinoid gaining attention for its non-psychoactive and energizing effects.
You like THCV?
Yes, I do. Looking more closely at cannabinoid genes across the pangenome, the researchers concluded that two genes, THCAS and CBDAS, are likely under strong selective pressure from human-directed breeding for THC and CBD content. The researchers also identified interesting targets for agricultural optimization. First, by looking at the differences between European and Asian genomes, they concluded there is likely an ancient cannabis relative somewhere in Asia waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
This wild relative will have novel genetic adaptations related to its unique environmental history, making it a wealth of information for breeding cannabis plants that are more resilient crops. Finally, the novel insight into sex chromosomes revealed that there are genes only present in father plants that can be used to breed better performing offspring. These new findings suggest that breeding programs may be missing valuable genetic diversity and trait potential encoded in those bypassed male genomes. Incorporating true male plants into breeding strategies could unlock overlooked genetic gains and expand opportunities for crop improvement. Co-first author Ryan Lynch, a postdoctoral researcher in Michael's lab, said, "Once there's market interest, paired with these new insights into cannabis genomes, that can guide breeding efforts. I can see hemp and hemp oils really booming in both human health and industrial applications." In the short term, the team hopes the Pangenome will serve as a dynamic resource for researchers around the world to build upon and use to inform cultivation strategies, helping to realize the untapped potential of cannabis as a valuable multi-use crop grown for fiber, seed oil, and medicine.
There you go. A pangenome is a complete collection of all genes within a species, representing the sum of all individual genomes. It encompasses both the shared genes, core genomes, and the unique gene presents in some but not all individuals. Dispensable genome. Had to know what that was. I think we've probably talked about this before, but not in such depth.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was kind of a techie, like a very...
If you're nerdy, you're going to like that article.
Yeah,
very science heavy, but this is part of that segment. So, and
I think most of us probably understand.
We like education. You know, and just we learn we learn to help others learn, right? And you're always wondering about the plant.
Yes.
You know, so that's why I give you certain things to help you learn, and we learn to help others learn. That's been our motto for a long time. So I love my video games.
Yeah, you do.
I do. I've been playing video games since I was 2 years old. So I've been playing since 1974. That's how old I'm old. And but I enjoy gaming. To try to keep up with some of you younger ones, though, in some of the games I play, it's tough for a 52-year-old stoner burner pothead to play and keep up with 20 and 30-year-olds and Valorant and Marvel Rivals and all the shooter games. And I hold my own, but I'm not nowhere near as good as some of the people I play with, though. I'm averaging about 12 kills a game most of the time, and some people average 40 kills a game. Just not as fast on the gun like I used to be in my 20s and 30s. So, but smoking marijuana and playing video games go hand in hand, right? Not so fast. Common assumption. There's a widespread belief that marijuana use and video gaming are closely linked activities. Research findings, though, studies challenge this assumption, indicating that the connection may not be as strong as popularly believed. The overview research conducted surveys to examine the relationship between cannabis consumption and video game playing habits. The demographics, the studies included a diverse group of participants across age groups and backgrounds. The patterns use findings suggest that while some gamers use marijuana, it's not a universal trend among the gaming community. The frequency of use. Among those who do combine the two, the frequency and reason for the usage is vary significantly. Like, I like to smoke when I game, but I don't over smoke.
Right.
You know, I just like it gets me in a zone. When I smoke a good like mind, like where it gets you like
focused,
boy, a good focus strain, I'm geared up. And, I could play an RPG game for 3 hours and not move, and I've done it. I've gamed for 8 hours.
I was going to say 3 hours.
But I can go 3 hours straight, like it's
Yeah.
nothing. And when I smoke a little weed on top of that, I'm focused upon focus, and I don't stop. I don't put the controller down. I don't even know if I pee in 3. So I don't move. So I for me, smoking is a more focus for me. But there's been times where I've smoked strains that didn't get me focused, and I just stood there looking at the screen for an hour.
Or your response time is
slow.
really you have one kill.
Yeah,
for the game.
right. Yeah, it's 100% true. The influence this type of video game plays a role. For instance, fast-paced games may be more challenging under the influence, while slower-paced games might be more enjoyable. The effects, cannabis can alter cognitive functions such as attention, reaction time, and decision-making, which are critical in gaming. The social aspects, for some, using marijuana enhances the social experience of gaming, especially in multiplayer settings. Its therapeutic use, though, a subset of gamers use cannabis for therapeutic reasons, such as managing anxiety or chronic pain, which may indirectly affect their gaming habits. There's a perception versus reality. The stereotype of the stoner gamer is not universally accurate and doesn't reflect the diversity within the gaming community. The cultural factors, cultural and regional differences between the prevalence and perception of combining marijuana use with gaming. There's legal implications. In areas where cannabis is legal, there might be a higher reported incidence of its use among gamers, though it's not established. Health considerations, health professionals advise caution, noting that excessive cannabis use can have adverse effects on mental and physical health, which in turn can impact gaming. Research limitations. The studies acknowledge limitations, including self-reported data and the need for more comprehensive research. There's an industry perspective that gaming industry does not officially address or endorse the combination of cannabis use with gaming. Yeah, there is no, except for that new game that came out, the one I read about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we became your own drug dealer. So that's like, and there's some games like like GTA 5, and there's some games that like where you were smoking pot. There is some games, but it's not like there a lot.
It's not prominent
because a lot of kids under 21 play games. Future research calls for more nuanced studies to understand the complexities of cannabis use among gamers. And then there is some overlap between marijuana and use in gaming. It's not prevalent or straightforward as commonly assumed. There is a lot of stoners out there that game, though. I know a lot of them. Now, this correlates with the first article Mrs. Weedman read. So a lot more older Americans are now using marijuana, and this is a federally funded study shows. The fastest growing age group in cannabis is 65 and up, actually like 55 and up, and Gen Z women are the fastest growing segments of the cannabis industry. And this is a great article just to talk about now the age group that are a little older than us, but how they use cannabis and why they like it and where they're switching from.
Yes, a new federally funded report published by the Journal of the American Medical Association finds that the use of marijuana by U.S. adults 65 and older has increased considerably in recent years amid broader legal access for medical and recreational use cannabis. Consumption had already been on the rise over the past couple of decades, the research letter says, with reported past year consumption rising from 1% in 2005 to 4.2% in 2018. The new findings, which draw on the National Survey on Drug Use and Health that we talked about in a couple articles ago, show that past month use has climbed from 4.8% in 2021 to 7% in 2023. This growth over the past few years was seen among nearly all demographic subsets, but it was especially strong among people who listed their race as other, women, white people, people with college or post-college degrees, those with higher income, married people, and those living in states with legal medical marijuana, the report says. Data also showed that people with multiple chronic diseases also reported a recent increase in prevalence of use. Some trends reveal what authors called shifts in cannabis use by older adults. Adults with the highest incomes initially had the lowest prevalence of cannabis use versus other income levels, they said. But by 2023, they had the highest prevalence, which may indicate better access to medical cannabis. The rise in cannabis use among adults 65 and older in legal jurisdictions highlights the importance of structural educational support for patients and clinicians in those states, the report notes, pointing to potential complications in treating chronic disease. It also notes that tobacco and excess alcohol use continues to be high among older adults who use cannabis. The new findings by researchers at University of California, San Diego and New York University Medical Schools were published as a research letter this past week. Along with the report, the journal American Medical Association also published an editor's note asserting that existing therapeutic evidence for medical cannabis in older adults has been inconsistent across several conditions, with many studies suggesting possible benefits while others find limited benefit. It also heightens apparent potential harms that marijuana might cause older adults, including increased risks of cardiovascular, respiratory, and gastrointestinal conditions, strokes, sedation, cognitive impairment, falls, motor vehicle injuries, drug-to-drug interactions, and psychiatric disorders. Older adults require more information on methods available for taking cannabis and age-specific dosing guidance, the editor's note says. Healthcare professionals should recognize that older adults are increasingly using cannabis products and promote open and judgment-free conversations about its use. Overall, it says, the new research findings underscore the need for more high-quality evidence evaluating the benefit-to-risk ratio of cannabis in older adults, as well as the need for clinician support to prevent cannabis-related harms. A separate study recently published by the American Medical Association found that while the frequency of marijuana use among adults in Canada increased slightly in the years following nationwide legalization, problematic misuse of cannabis, in fact, saw modest decreases. The report, published in JAMA Network Open and funded in part by the federal agency, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, looked at data from 1,428 adults aged 18 to 65 who completed assessments roughly every 6 months between September of 2018 and October of 2023. Frequency of marijuana use overall increased slightly but significantly over the 5-year period. Among all participants, the mean proportion of days using cannabis increased by 1.75% over the 5-year study period. People who used cannabis most frequently before legalization saw the largest declines in use. Those who used marijuana once a month or less before legalization, meanwhile, reported slight increases in use. Governments and public health experts have been working to track consumer behavior as laws around marijuana continue to change. In the U.S., a Center for Disease Control and Prevention report recently broke down federal data on cannabis use among thousands of U.S. adults, finding that while smoking marijuana remains the most common way to consume it, methods such as eating, vaping, and dabbing are growing in popularity. Overall, in 2022, 15.3% of adults reported current marijuana use, while 7.9% reported daily use. Among users, 79.4% reported smoking, followed by 41.6% reporting that they would consume by eating, 30.3% by vaping, and 14.6% by dabbing. An earlier analysis from the CDC found that rates of current and lifetime cannabis use among high school students have continued to drop amid the legalization movement. A separate poll recently found that more Americans smoke marijuana on a daily basis than drink alcohol every day, and that alcohol drinkers are more likely to say they would benefit from limiting their use than cannabis consumers. As for older consumers specifically, a study earlier this year on the use of medical marijuana by patients age 50 and above concluded that cannabis seemed to be a safe and effective treatment for pain and other conditions. Most patients experienced clinically significant improvements in pain, sleep, quality of life, and reductions in co-medication, it found. Nearly all patients used products orally, such as edibles and extracts, and opposed to smoking or vaporized cannabis, and most preferred products high in CBD and relatively low in THC. The study involved use of medical marijuana by patients under the care of a healthcare provider, with the treating physician reporting data around the use of cannabis and other medications. Over the 6-month study period, significant improvements were noted in pain, sleep, and quality of life measures, the report says, with 45% experiencing a clinically meaningful improvement in pain interference and in sleep quality scores. A different study last year from the retirement group AARP found that marijuana use by older people in the U.S. has nearly doubled in the last 3 years, with better sleep among the most frequently cited reasons.
Long one, but
Yeah.
good information about the older adults
Yes.
and what they're using and what they like. Political state business news. Illinois cannabis omnibus bill stalls again. Wah, wah, wah. Since recreational legalization in 2020, only one Illinois cannabis-related bill, House Bill 1443, has been passed to reform either the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Program Act or the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act. Tax Act. That should be all capitals highlighted in 50 colors because it's all about the tax in this state. As with several previously legislative sessions, Illinois lawmakers again adjourned without passing one cannabis reform item, including two closely followed bills, Senate Bill 2090 and Senate Bill 0042. Senate Bill 2090, a former public funds bill, and that had been amended as the shell bill to pass in multiple past legislative sessions, including expanding access for medical patients, added support for social equity license holders, relocations of the adult use dispensing requirements, and cannabis within any area of motor vehicles must be an odor-proof container. The minor change of wording in the vehicle code could have bigger implications for future Illinois Supreme Court rulings on raw cannabis odor and probably cause for vehicle searches. When asked today at the press conference why Illinois has not passed cannabis and other stalled bills in the session, our great governor, J.B. Pritzker, said, "You don't get everything done in 1 year. Sometimes the Senate president and a lot of people in the General Assembly spend 2 years, 4 years, 6 years trying to get something done. That means they've been in those departments way too long. They should be out. It should be term limits. They should only get 4 years. They don't do it, you're out." I think we've been hyper successful at getting things done in a shorter time than expected. All cannabis related bills can still be passed during the fall veto session. There's also some other things they need to add on there. They need to add that out-of-state residents can get the same allotment as in-state residents. That is fucking stupid because out-of-state residents, they can't participate in a lot of the deals that Illinois offers at these dispensaries.
Right.
Because their allotment.
Right.
And they're spending way too much money for getting little.
Mm-hmm.
So we should up the allotment. I mean, out-of-state residents are bringing anywhere between $40 million to $50 million a month.
Right. And if they want to take the risk of
it'd be 55, it'd probably be 60, 70 million if they let them have the full allotment like we have here, like the residents here. It's so stupid. The that's one. I can't remember what the other one I was going to say, but that's definitely one. Medical for all dispensaries in Illinois. It shouldn't just be for 52 of them. Every dispensary, 260 of them, should be able to sell medical patients too.
Oh yeah.
That needs to change. Those two right there, you change those two, it'll change the fucking world for a minute.
With medical patient pricing,
right?
Is what you're saying.
Well, no, just medical patient in all. You're only allowed. There's only 52 medical stores in the whole state of Illinois. No one else can sell medical out of the 260 licenses. So there's a big argument going. Every store should be able to sell
Just
medical.
Have one universal license
instead of 52 of them, and you would see the medical sales rise again. People get their card again because now you have to drive. Some people
can't see.
It's so good. So there's a couple of things, my opinion. THC found in popular mainstream candies, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah,
I know you knew
heard
this.
about that.
Almost every American can relate to the experience of walking into a cool convenience store or a candy shop and grabbing their favorite Haribo gummy snacks. For a few in the Netherlands, though, that candy tree turned into a wild ride. So far, 3 bags of Happy Cola Fizz candies, you've eaten a lot of those, similar to those found in the United States, have contained THC. The Dutch Food and Consumer Product Safety Authority issued the recall earlier in the week for the fizzy cola candies. Several members of the same family fell ill after sharing a package. How would you fall ill?
Well, if you didn't know what you were feeling, you'd be like, what's wrong with me?
Dutch media reports police investigated and discovered that the cola sweets contain THC. Only 3 bags have been cited as causing problems. specifically dizziness. Haribo issued a recall for the entire batch as a precaution. Candies that could be impacted have the best before date of January 2026 and the batch production number of L341-400-230-7906. Haribo is working closely with the Dutch authorities to discover how it was contaminated and ensure that no other products have been distributed with the weed inside. Also in Hong Kong, they pulled all Haribo cola
Just in
sweets
case.
after cannabis traces found in the Netherlands. DEA promotes claim that marijuana could be more likely to cause psychosis than meth. The DEA is... yeah, right.
Have you ever seen someone walking down the street on meth? They're like,
I've never seen...
They're like doing this crazy stuff.
But I've also never seen a fucking
standing.
cannabis user with no teeth.
Right.
Unless they don't brush.
Right.
Or floss.
Yeah.
Meth users, after using it for like a few years, they lose their fucking teeth. They've lost ears. They've lost hair. They lost their penis. They lose everything. Toes. Ugh. Their fingers fall off. They got issues. They got they look like mosquito sores
all over.
This is just more propaganda. More propaganda by our government to fucking beat up cannabis. Like I said earlier about it. Just step all over us. The DEA is promoting a claim that marijuana may be more likely to cause psychosis than methamphetamines, citing a psychiatrist's statement that the matter is still under investigation. So it doesn't. It's still under investigation.
Right.
You're just DEA, you suck. The assertion has sparked debate as some experts argue with the high potency cannabis can increase psychosis risk in vulnerable individuals. Current evidence does not conclusively show it poses greater risk than meth. I once say this. We do not need 40% cannabis. We don't need, and there's some of you that are not meant to smoke that high, the high distillate or the high hash or high THC. You need to learn your consumption and what's good for you. You will not get psychosis if you're smoking a 14-15% strain.
Think about a new smoker. You know, you're like a month into smoking, you've probably, consumed maybe 8 or 10 times. You still have, unless you're one of those people that is just innately like high tolerance, most of us are not. And you have to build. And it's not really about building your tolerance. It's more about learning what's right for your body.
And opening your endocannabinoid system, right?
But to get into the flow of things, you have to start at a really low dose. Otherwise, you're going to be uncomfortable and you're not going to enjoy it. So if you were someone who's very new into consuming and you're like, I'm ready, I'm going for it, I'm doing a 50 milligram. Bye. You're going to feel like
Felicia.
fucking shit. You're going to feel like real shit. And what was my point?
You were talking about like the psychosis of like taking high
you're gonna
THC.
feel freaking crazy because it's like that would be the equivalent of drinking like a bottle of vodka, like a handle of vodka.
No, not a handle.
I know, but a lot. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You've had way too much.
Oh yeah,
and you're not gonna feel good for a little bit.
You're gonna hate your life.
So really, yeah,
you're gonna cry to mom.
Yeah,
the DA sucks. Yeah. They do want they love beating up. They love beating up weed. Love it. That's why they don't want it off to Schedule 1. They love busting people for weed. They hate cannabis. Mm-hmm. It was fed into their DEA Bible.
It's just so
when
dumb.
It was started by, was it Nixon that started DEA or fucking, I can't even remember who started. I think it was Nixon. And it was bred. Cannabis bad. Hippies. Blacks. Hispanics. They are related to cannabis. Bad. It's instilled in their DEA Bible. Mm-hmm. Still to this day. You all suck, DEA. Mrs. Weedman has a shirt with a X going through it. It says DEA X.
We knew some people in the DEA.
Yes, we did.
They're okay people.
Yes.
Just what they're doing to cannabis is not great.
Not good at all. Montana governor signs bill reserving $12 million of cannabis tax revenue for Habitat Legacy account. Now, there's what cannabis money should be used for. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, Republican, has signed a new law directing $12 million of the annual cannabis tax revenue to Habitat Legacy account for conservation assessments, water storage, wildlife habitat support, and so much more. Finally, nationwide poll conducted by the Cannabis Policy Institute at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas says that roughly 70% of people surveyed said they favor a casino resort having a cannabis smoking lounge or a designated area for consumption. You're not allowed to smoke weed in
right.
casinos. It's so stupid. They should have a lounge.
They should.
And you are allowed to have lounges now.
Just like we should
Vegas.
be able to have consumption lounges. Think about people who don't own their home. They may not be able to smoke where they live.
Right.
They should have the right to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Completely botched. More than 2 years after legalization, Delaware still has no marijuana retail stores. More than 2 years after Delaware legalized recreational marijuana, the state still stalls lack of operational retail dispensaries. Implementation has been hindered by local bans, restrictive zoning laws, and administrative delays. While major cities like Wilmington, Dover, and Newark have designated areas for cannabis businesses, many municipalities, especially in Sussex County, have enacted prohibitive measures. The state is currently processing licenses, but a definitive timeline for store openings remains uncertain. That's because you let the government run shit. People would have those stores open by now. Now over to you, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah. I've got some political, state, and business news. Washington to issue new social equity cannabis licenses this summer. Washington State will accept applications for 52 new social equity retail cannabis licenses from this June through the start of July, marking the largest expansion since the state's adult use market launched over a decade ago. The initiative aims to support communities disproportionately affected by past drug policies. Eligible applicants must meet at least 2 of 4 criteria, including residency in impacted areas, cannabis-related convictions, low income, or being socially or economically disadvantaged. A federal judge declares Oregon cannabis union law unconstitutional, overturning the 2024 ballot measure. A federal judge has overturned Oregon's Measure 119, a 2024 voter-approved law requiring cannabis businesses to sign labor peace agreements to obtain or renew licenses. Judge Michael Simon ruled the measure unconstitutional, stating it violated employers' First Amendment rights and conflicted with the National Labor Relations Act by restricting non-neutral speech about unionization.
Hey,
Why couldn't
everybody.
they have just figured out a way?
I don't know. Hey, everybody in Oregon, guess what?
Guess what?
Mrs. Weedman finally said it right.
Oregon. Shopper finds nearly a pound of marijuana in a bin at Where Ya At bin discount. Why did they turn it in? Like, duh.
Because you're in Clive, Iowa.
In Clive, Iowa. Oops. Roughly a pound of marijuana was found by a customer at a newly opened discount store in Clive. The Clive Police Department received a report of approximately a pound of marijuana within a sealed bag and box in one of the bins at Where Ya Bin on May 23rd. Officers responded to the store to investigate the incident. There's really no way to determine where it came from, who it was mailed from, or where it was supposed to go, Rayberg said. Drugs get sent through the mail all the time. On to Ohio. Ohio Republican lawmakers plan to pass marijuana restrictions by the end of June. What? Ohio Republican lawmakers aim to pass new restrictions on recreational marijuana by the end of June, modifying the voter-approved, who do you work for? The people. Okay. A voter-approved 2023 legalization. Proposals include reducing THC limits, limiting home cultivation, and regulating hemp-derived products. Critics argue these changes undermined the will of the voters.
The people!
Meanwhile, back in Ohio, they are more than doubling the amount of marijuana that adults can legally buy per day, because this all makes sense after what I just read, right? Okay, but let's let them have more per day. Okay, whatever. Effective June 4th, 2025. I mean, it's great. Why not? But it doesn't make any sense. Ohio will increase the daily purchase limit for adult use cannabis from 1 ounce to 2.5 ounces of dried flower per day. Stoner. Aligning with the state's possession limit. This adjustment reflects the market's capacity to support both medical and recreational consumers. Medical patients' purchases remain unchanged. Their purchase limits remain unchanged. On to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's the next stop for a challenge to federal marijuana prohibition. A federal appeals court has rejected a constitutional challenge to the U.S. marijuana prohibition brought by a coalition of regulated cannabis companies. The plaintiffs argued that the federal ban is outdated due to widespread state-level legalization. The court upheld the federal prohibition. The plaintiffs now plan to seek Supreme Court review. This city is giving residents cash thanks to weed. Albuquerque, New Mexico has launched a basic income program funded by cannabis tax revenue. How about that? back to the people.
Amazing.
Yes. 80 households, including new mothers, people of color, and trans individuals, will receive $750 per month for 3 years. The initiative aims to address racial disparities and support vulnerable communities, with participants also receiving financial counseling. That's wonderful.
It's amazing. Using tax dollars to get back to the people.
Yeah, we'll get more into this in a minute.
Yeah, you have another article coming up on that.
But my math says that would be $720,000 a year, or $2.16 million over the 3-year program. I think they could do better.
It's still pretty good.
I know, but $2.16 million.
I know.
How much do they earn in
New
tax?
Mexico, I don't know, probably not as much as Illinois. Illinois, $460 million it is. I think New Mexico was probably not even close to that. Maybe 20, 30, maybe 50 million. I don't know. I got to look it up. But still, they're giving back to the people.
Hopefully it works and they increase that.
Illinois with that $460 million, they could do a lot of good in this state with that money.
Hawaii governor signs bill expanding medical marijuana caregiver rights. Hawaiian Governor Josh Green signed SB 1429 into law, expanding medical marijuana caregiver rights. The legislation permits caregivers to cultivate cannabis for up to 5 qualified patients. That's up from 1. It also allows caregivers to possess up to 4 ounces of usable marijuana per patient.
I want to move to Hawaii just for that reason.
Yeah, right?
I want to be a caregiver and have 5 patients.
Nice outdoor grow.
Yep. Nebraska lawmakers move forward with a plan to outlaw most consumable hemp and THC products. Nebraska lawmakers are advancing a bill to ban most consumable hemp and THC products, including edibles, beverages, and topicals. The proposed legislation would criminalize products exceeding 0.3% THC or 10 milligrams per package, even if derived from hemp. Opponents argue it could harm small businesses and medical users. Remember a few years back, let's just say maybe like 2, maybe close to 3 years ago, what did Mr. Weedman say about hemp and using it and not just doing what the law says, CBD, products and minor cannabinoids? It wasn't meant to be used for THC. I said you were all moving too fast and eventually the house was going to come crumbling down. And we see multiple states now banning THC, Delta-9 derived from hemp. Multiple states, and Delta-8, and HHC, and Delta-10, and all, but mostly Delta-9 now is the major focus derived from hemp. You all move too fast, and a lot of states are banning it now. They're not banning CBD, but they're banning THC for coming derived from hemp. So you're going to, a lot of Texas is waiting for Abbott to sign it or not sign or veto it. You're talking Nebraska, Alaska. I mean, California just banned it.
Right.
That's a big market.
It's big.
There's more too. I'm not mentioning them all, but there's a lot.
It's a lot of businesses that are.
State cannabinoid ban set as a popularity skyrockets. Oregon will ban synthetic cannabinol, CBN, starting July 1st, 2025, unless products are FDA approved as generally recognized as safe, or have a new dietary ingredient notification. The Oregon Liquor Commission and Cannabis Commission aims to protect consumers from potential chemical residues in artificially derived CBN products. Someone was saying in this article also that the synthetic CBN is not actually as bad as they're saying it is, and it should not be banned in Oregon, so who knows. Cannabis shop manager, $700,000 embezzlement scandal. Remember my 6th episode, very long time ago? Suits, schemers, and scandals. I'll never forget that. It was to me still one of my favorite episodes. It will always have a place in my heart because we had a good time with me and Dov Boy had a really good time on that episode, and that was like the last episode with the old crew. Ashley, the office manager of the Pacific Outpost Cannabis Dispensary in Pasco, Washington, is accused of embezzling approximately $770,000. She allegedly used a company credit card, $181,000 in personal expenses, including gambling at Wild Horse Resort and Casino, and diverted $589,000 in cash deposits. Evidence found at her home included luxury items and casino receipts. Ashley faces charges of first-degree theft and money laundering and is being held on $25,000 bail with a GPS ankle monitor order to do concerns she might flee to Mexico.
Oh, jeez.
Ashley.
You done fucked up.
Judges upholds Alaska limitations on the toxic hemp-derived THC products, like I just talked about. Kentucky governor launches medical marijuana dispensary map ahead of market launch and waives patients' renewal fees. I like this governor in Kentucky. He's doing all right. For weed. Texas set to both limit and expand THC. Now, this is just ass backwards. You ready? All right, here we go. Texas lawmakers have spent 2 significant cannabis-related bills to Governor Greg Abbott. Senate Bill 3 proposes a statewide ban on most hemp-derived THC products, potentially impacting Texas's $8 billion hemp industry and 50,000 jobs. Meanwhile, House Bill 46 seeks to expand the state's medical marijuana program by adding new qualifying conditions and increasing the number of licensed dispensaries from 3. Take a guess how many they're going to add.
10.
15.
Ooh. I mean, they could do it for the
You know
whole
how
state.
big that fucking state is? That fucking state is ginormous.
They need a couple hundred.
So this is what people are arguing about.
Yeah, like give us more access.
Or give us more access to it medically and open up the whole state for medical, have at least 200 medical dispensaries, or keep the fucking hemp because only people are getting their medicine.
Right.
So on June 2nd, right? Oh, wait, hold on. Did I miss something? Oh, both bills await Governor Abbott's decision, with advocates urging a veto of SB 3 to protect the hemp industry and patient access. On June 2nd, 2025, though, Texas hemp advocates delivered over 118,000 petition signatures and 5,000 letters to Governor Abbott's desk, urging him to veto Senate Bill 3. We'll see what happens. The plot thickens. Cannabis sales declined in May. In 2025, cannabis sales across 15 U.S. states totaled $2.13 billion, making a 0.3% sequential decline and 3.5% drop on a per-day basis. Year-over-year growth was modest at 1.7%, with New York's adult use market contributing significantly. Excluding New York, sales fell 3.4%. In Western states like California and Oregon experienced year-over-year declines, while Eastern states showed mixed results. Notably, Florida's market remained stagnant after 2 consecutive monthly declines. Now, talking about Florida, I don't know if it was Mr. Weedman that helped by doing that interview with Colby and Cullen down in St. Augustine, but here's some great news. You ready? Florida marijuana activists collect signatures on 2026 legalization ballot measures to trigger fiscal and judicial review. Florida activists gathered over 377,000 valid signatures for 2026 marijuana legalization initiative, awesome, surpassing the threshold to initiate state fiscal and judicial reviews. This marks their second attempt after the 2024 measure failed to meet the 60% approval requirement. The revised proposal includes stricter public consumption restrictions and clarifies home cultivation rights. However, Governor Ron DeSantis has expressed opposition. Of course he has. Has he done yet?
Yeah, right.
Is he done?
Isn't he done?
Suggesting potential legal challenges ahead. Of course. Are you done? You need to go. Because you are a cancer to cannabis. And cannabis cures cancer. And you're a cancer to it. So we're fighting you, DeSantis. I know you've done some good things in Florida, but you also done some shitty things in Florida, and this is shitty. And you keep on doing it. Let the people decide on their own. You got caught with your hands in the cookie jar, taking that $10 million to fight against cannabis and fight so you wouldn't get it legalized. And then your DA or whatever your lawyer said that it was good that we took that money to fight cannabis legalization. He even admitted to it. That I took my hand and put it in the cookie jar. Right. There needs to be an investigation. California. Here's another good news though for California. And this is news as of today. The California Assembly unanimously passed a bill to delay a planned cannabis excise tax increase from 15% to 19% until 2030-2031 fiscal year. This move aims to support the struggling legal cannabis market, which has been declining sales and increased competition from unlicensed sellers. Good for you, California. You should just not even do it at all. You should actually lower taxes down to 10% and call it a day. You'll still make your money. And people will go back to buying at dispensaries again, spend more money, and you'll make more tax revenue. Do the math. You don't raise taxes when the market's in a down market. All you're doing is hurting the market, dumbasses. You lower taxes down so people go out and spend more money. You're not hurting it in their pocketbook. That's why government shouldn't run a budget, because they don't know how.
No, there should be overseers that are not
good accountants.
Yeah. An outside firm.
Good accountants.
Yeah.
Now going to talk about what New Mexico is doing. Mrs. Weedman's got a cool article from one of our faves, Reginald Reefer. And could federal cannabis legalization fund a universal basic income plan for all Americans? Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, while Texas lawmakers are busy criminalizing adults for THC possession and gift wrapping an $8 billion market for drug cartels, New Mexico is taking a radically different approach. The land of enchantment has discovered something remarkable. Their cannabis tax revenue can do more than just fill government coffers. It can directly transform lives through universal basic income. In a groundbreaking pilot program, New Mexico is using cannabis tax revenue to provide no strings attached cash payments to residents, creating what may be the most innovative social welfare program in the United States. This isn't theoretical policy experimentation. It's a real program delivering real results to real people who need financial support the most. The contrast couldn't be starker. While one state criminalizes cannabis and ensures all revenue flows to criminal organizations, another state has legalized, regulated, and channeled that same revenue stream into direct poverty alleviation. The message is clear. Cannabis isn't just about personal freedom or medical access. It's about social justice and economic opportunity. This pilot program represents everything. Prohibition opponents have argued for decades that cannabis legalization creates positive social outcomes that extend far beyond the immediate users. When properly regulated and taxed, cannabis becomes a tool for addressing inequality, funding social programs, and demonstrating that evidence-based policy works better than moral panic. As we examine New Mexico's innovative approach, the question becomes not whether our other states should follow suit, but whether they can afford not to. While prohibitionist states continue pouring resources into failed enforcement and incarceration, legalization states are using cannabis revenue to build more equitable societies. New Mexico's cannabis-funded Universal Basic Income pilot program represents one of the most innovative uses of marijuana tax revenue in the country. Unlike traditional welfare programs with complex eligibility requirements and bureaucratic hurdles, this initiative provides direct cash payments to residents with minimal restrictions, funded entirely by cannabis tax revenue. The program emerged from New Mexico's broader cannabis legalization framework, which took effect in 2021. Rather than simply dumping cannabis tax revenue into general funds where it might disappear into the bureaucratic maze, state leaders recognized an opportunity to create a targeted social impact plan. The UBI pilot program specifically uses a portion of cannabis excise taxes to provide monthly payments to qualifying residents, creating a direct link between cannabis commerce and poverty alleviation. Recipients receive monthly cash payments that they can use for any purpose: rent, groceries, childcare, transportation, or any other expense. This approach differs fundamentally from traditional welfare programs that restrict how benefits can be used. The philosophy underlying UBI is that people understand their own needs better than the government and should have the freedom to allocate resources accordingly. Early results from the program have been encouraging. Recipients report using the payments for basic necessities like housing and food, but also for opportunities that traditional welfare might not cover, things like car repair that enable work, childcare that allows job searching, or small investments in education or skills training. The unrestricted nature of the payments provides flexibility that targeted welfare programs often lack. The funding mechanism creates a virtuous cycle. Legal cannabis sales generate tax revenue, which funds direct cash assistance, which stimulates local economic activity, which generates additional tax revenue. This stands in stark contrast to prohibition, which generates no tax revenue while consuming vast resources for enforcement and incarceration. New Mexico's approach also demonstrates how cannabis legalization can address social equity concerns that extend beyond expunging criminal records. By directing cannabis revenue toward UBI, the state creates ongoing benefits for communities that were disproportionately impacted by prohibition. Rather than just ending the harm of criminalization, cannabis legalization becomes a tool for actively improving economic conditions. The program's simplicity is part of its genius. Rather than creating new bureaucracies or complex eligibility systems, it leverages existing infrastructure to distribute payments efficiently. This reduces administrative costs and ensures more money reaches recipients than being consumed by overhead. Critics of UBI often argue that direct cash payments reduce work incentives, but early data from New Mexico suggests otherwise. Many recipients use the financial stability provided by UBI to pursue education, training, or job searches that might otherwise be impossible when living paycheck to paycheck. The payments provide a foundation that enables rather than discourages productive activity. The beneficiaries of New Mexico's cannabis-funded UBI program represent a cross-section of Americans struggling with economic insecurity in an increasingly expensive world. The actual participants in this program demonstrate the broad reach of financial instability in modern America. Single mothers comprise a significant portion of recipients, using the monthly payments to cover childcare costs that often make working financially impossible. Traditional welfare systems create cliff effects, where earning slightly more income results in massive benefit losses, trapping recipients in poverty. UBI eliminates these incentives by providing consistent support regardless of other income. College students represent another major beneficiary group. With student loan debt reaching crisis levels and the cost of education continuing to climb, many students struggle to balance work and study commitments. The UBI payments provide financial stability that allows students to focus on education rather than working multiple jobs to survive. This investment in human capital generates long-term economic returns that far exceed the initial cost. Veterans, particularly those transitioning from military to civilian life, have found the program invaluable. The monthly payments provide stability during job searches and help cover costs associated with relocation, training, or starting small businesses. For veterans dealing with PTSD or other service-related conditions, financial security reduces stress that can exacerbate mental health challenges. Gig workers like drivers, freelancers, contractors, they can use UBI to smooth income volatility that characterizes modern employment. Rather than facing financial crisis during slow periods, they have a foundation of support that enables them to be more selective about opportunities and invest in equipment or training that improves earning potential. Rural residents facing economic transitions as traditional industries decline find UBI particularly valuable. Mining, ranching, and manufacturing communities throughout New Mexico have experienced job losses as economic conditions change. The cannabis-funded payments provide support during retraining periods and help maintain rural communities that might otherwise face population exodus. Perhaps most importantly, the program serves working families, people who are employed but still struggle with basic expenses due to low wages and high costs. These individuals often don't qualify for traditional welfare but still face genuine financial hardship. UBI fills this gap by providing support without the stigma or bureaucratic complexity of traditional programs. The physiological benefits extend beyond pure economics. Recipients report reduced stress, improved mental health, and greater ability to plan for the future. The predictable nature of UBI payments provides emotional stability that irregular income or complex welfare systems cannot match. This physiological foundation enables better decision-making and long-term planning. Children benefit indirectly but significantly too. Families receiving UBI report being able to provide better nutrition, stable housing, and educational opportunities for their children. The intergenerational effects of childhood poverty are well documented. Breaking these cycles through family financial stability generates enormous long-term social benefits. New Mexico's success with cannabis-funded UBI demonstrates a scalable model that other states could adapt to their specific needs and priorities. The fundamental concept, using cannabis tax revenue for direct social benefit programs, can be implemented in various forms depending on local conditions and political preferences. States considering cannabis legalization should examine New Mexico's approach as a template for addressing social equity while generating public support for reform. Rather than simply arguing for legalization based on individual liberty or criminal justice reform, advocates can point to concrete social benefits that appeal to broader constituencies. The economic scale of potential nationwide implementation is staggering. Cannabis sales in legal states already generate billions in tax revenue annually. If even a portion of this revenue were dedicated to UBI or similar programs, it could provide meaningful financial support to millions of Americans while demonstrating the positive social outcomes of evidence-based drug policy. The flexibility of UBI allows states to address their unique challenges while maintaining the program's essential characteristics. Implementation could be phased out to build public support and refine administrative systems. Starting with targeted populations allows states to demonstrate the program's effectiveness before expanding to broader eligibility. This approach reduces political risk while generating evidence for program expansion. States with similar demographics or economic challenges could share best practices, coordinate program designs, or even create regional UBI systems. This collaboration could reduce administrative costs while increasing program impact. While federal UBI remains politically challenging, supporting state experimentation with cannabis-funded programs could generate evidence for broader policy discussions. The model also addresses concerns about cannabis legalization by demonstrating concrete social benefits that extend beyond individual users. Critics often argue that legalization primarily benefits cannabis companies and users, but cannabis-funded UBI shows how the entire community can benefit from the well-designed legalization policies. The contrast between Texas and New Mexico illuminates two fundamentally different approaches to cannabis policy and their dramatically different outcomes. While Texas criminalizes adults and empowers cartels, New Mexico generates tax revenue and funds poverty alleviation. The policy choices couldn't be more different, and neither could the results. Texas Senate Bill 3 will destroy an $8 billion legal industry, eliminate thousands of jobs, reduce tax revenue, increase incarceration costs, and hand market control to criminal organizations. The human cost includes veterans losing access to alternatives to addictive opioids, patients losing medical options, and adults facing criminal penalties for personal choices that harm no one else. Meanwhile, New Mexico's approach generates tax revenue, creates legitimate jobs, reduces criminal market share, and funds programs that directly improve lives. The same plant that Texas treats as a criminal threat becomes a tool for social progress in New Mexico. Texas will spend millions prosecuting THC cases, incarcerating offenders, and dealing with the social costs of criminalization. And New Mexico generates revenue while reducing criminal justice costs and investing in human capital through UBI. The message to other states is clear. Prohibition is expensive and ineffective, while regulation generates resources for addressing social change. New Mexico's success demonstrates that cannabis legalization isn't just about ending prohibition. It's about creating positive alternatives that serve the public interest. Cannabis-funded UBI transforms the debate from arguments about individual liberty to demonstrations of community benefits. New Mexico's cannabis-funded Universal Basic Income program represents more than innovative policy. It's proof that cannabis can be a force for social good. The choices between these approaches reflects deeper questions about the role of government and the kind of society we want to create. The future of cannabis policy isn't just about ending prohibition. It's about building something better in its place. New Mexico's cannabis-funded UBI program points toward that better future, where policy serves human need rather than ideological preferences. Boom.
Go New Mexico.
Yeah. Reginald
Albuquerque.
Reefer. He writes it.
He's a very good writer.
Drives it in.
He does drive the nail to the heart, especially when he sees the wrong. You know, and you know, when I was reading about what New Mexico does, I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, a state like Illinois does $460 million, can probably give 1,000 people $1,000 a month and do it for 2 years, and then do another and do another and do another. It would help a lot of people out right now. You know, especially that you keep on raising taxes, Pritzker. And I don't know where that cannabis money goes, because they ain't fixing the roads. Because every time I drive somewhere, fucking Jesus. Tell you what.
It's not even a pothole. It's like a swimming pool.
Yeah.
It's a crater.
We should do in California. People were planting cannabis plants in the potholes.
In the potholes.
That'd be funny if we did that.
But it wouldn't last a minute in Chicago.
But it'd be funny. International news: PTA chairman accused Emil of smoking hashish. Apologizes amid uproar. During Senate committee meeting in Pakistan, PTA chairman Majen Hafizur-Rehman accused Senator Emil Wali Khan of smoking hashish. The remark angered Senator Emil, who demanded a disciplinary action. Despite Rahman's,
during a meeting?
Yeah, during a meeting. Despite Rahman's apology, Senator Emil rejected it, and the committee chairman, Senator Agaz Durrani, condemned the incident, pledging to raise the matter with the Prime Minister and directing it to the Secretary.
He forgot what was in his pipe.
London mayor backs marijuana decriminalization after a commission he created recommends reform. London Mayor Sadiq Khan has endorsed a proposal to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of natural cannabis. The recommendation follows a report by the London Drug Commission. Smoke break. Which he established. The report suggests that reclassifying cannabis under the Psychoactive Substance Act to reduce penalties for personal use while maintaining the legality of manufacturing and distribution. The Commission emphasizes addressing racial disparities and enforcement and focusing law enforcement efforts on dealers rather than users. Okay. Morocco sets rules for regulated cannabis cultivation. Morocco has implemented Decree 2.24.130 regulating medical cannabis cultivation under the Law 13-21. The decree establishes stricter guidelines for agricultural cooperatives in Al Hosamia, Chef Kushushuan, and Tayonate, focusing on technical environmental standards and mandates traceable security and quality control measures with severe penalties for non-compliance. This initiative aims to transition from informal to regulated cannabis production, promoting rural development while maintaining strict controls to prevent illegal activities. Bill to exempt medical cannabis patients from drug driving charges introduced today in Lismore. Iconic events. Mardi Gras was held at the beginning of May. Greens MP Kate Furman introduced the Road Transport Amendment Bill, medicinal cannabis exemption from offenses, Bill 2025 in the NSW Upper House. The bill aims to exempt medical cannabis patients from roadside drug driving charges if they are unimpaired and are use of medication as prescribed. Currently, such patients risk losing their license for 3 months. You guys need to take care of our friend Tez there because you guys fucked him on that if this passes. Even if not impaired, unlike users of other prescription drugs like morphine who have medical defense under Section 11 on the Road Transport Act 2013. The bill seeks to align road laws with legal status of medicinal cannabis, addressing concerns that THC can remain in the system for hours or days after use, despite no impairment. Similar reforms have been adopted in Victoria, Tasmania, New Zealand, the UK, and Germany. Germany imports a record quantity of medical cannabis in the first quarter. Now, this is the first quarter. You ready? Germany imported a record 41 tons in Q1 of 2025, and nearly 4.6 times the amount from the same period in 2024. Jeez. Approximately 7.7 tons came from Canada. The country's on track. United States. Canada exported 17.7 tons of weed to Germany. One country. We are so fucking stupid. Oh my gosh. It's just take a deep breath.
We just can't figure it out.
We're just stupid. Mm-hmm. You know how much money we can bring into this country on exporting weed?
There will be tariffs on weed.
I've said hemp and weed can save the world. The country is on track to import 150 tons this year. 150. How many pounds is that? 2,500 pounds is in a ton, right? Hold on a second. I want to see.
That's about right.
I want to see how much weed that is, right? So it's 150 times 2,500. 375,000 pounds.
Wow.
Of weed, just Germany. Germany legalized adult cannabis in February 2024. Adults can possess up to 25 grams and cultivate up to 3 plants per household. Even with cultivation, they're still bringing in 150 tons. And the United States is not sending one there legally anyway. UK government rejects medical cannabis grow your own petition. but at what cost? The UK government has rejected a petition approximately from 13,000 individuals advocating for the legalization of home cultivation of medical cannabis. The Home Office stated the homegrown cannabis is not safe or appropriate substitute for regulated cannabis-based medicinal products and has no plans to change the law. Oh my gosh. So in the Stone Age. To permit its use, the petition highlighted the financial difficulties faced by patients, many of whom spend on average $350 per month on private prescriptions. And NHS access remains limited. Advocates pointed to international precedents such as Canada, where patients are allowed to grow their own medical cannabis. The government's response referred to a 2018 review by former chief medical advisor Professor Darnay Sally Davis, 3 first names, Davies, which concluded the homegrown cannabis lacks the consistent concentrations and ratios of active compounds necessary for therapeutic benefit. Experts, however, argue that self-cultivation offers patients control over quality and safety, potentially reducing reliance on illicit sources. UK, it doesn't hurt to have home grow. The Czech Republic, though, lawmakers passed that bill to legalize marijuana home cultivation and allow psilocybin for medical use. We read about it last week, but they passed it. Good.
Right.
Here we
Good
go.
for them. Yep.
The Czech Republic Chamber of Deputies have approved a bill to legalize personal possession up to 100 grams of cannabis and home cultivation of up to 3 plants. The legislation also permits that medical use of psilocybin, mushrooms. The bill will now proceed to the Senate for further consideration. Good for you, Czech Republic. It's fashion time. Spring, summer fashion, right?
Always.
It's that time of the year where they do the big bathing suit runway models this time of the year to get ready for the summer season, right? They got the big clothing. They're all
cruise.
They're doing
2025 cruise.
Yeah, they're doing all.
You would have bought that back in the winter
What would I bought back?
if you had a store
Oh, okay.
to get your inventory.
Oh, gotcha. Damn, Midwest Terps took another hit. That's why you offered me a second one. I'm like, no, gotta end the show.
Are you in La La Land?
For a second there, I was lost in the sauce.
That's good.
But it is fashion, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got all the spring fashion going into summer fashion, right? They start doing
now everybody's wearing it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fashion shows.
They got you got some nuggets too, didn't you? You got some summertime fashion stuff. You got some nuggets.
Some fashions.
Yeah, we call them nuggets in this house when Mrs. Weedman finds a nugget.
Yeah.
The price nugget and looks good on her. It's called a nugget. So tell us about the spring fashion looks inspired by what? Cannabis and weed.
Yeah. Spring fashion is all about fresh starts and bold styles. And this season, one of the most interesting trends is on the rise, and it is weed-inspired fashion. From subtle cannabis leaf motifs to more daring full-blown prints, this trend reflects a growing cultural acceptance of cannabis and its influence on art, design, and fashion. Weed-inspired fashion has become a style choice that crosses mainstream and high-fashion boundaries. Cannabis culture has long been associated with counterculture movements, but in recent years, it's gained mainstream acceptance due to legalization in many parts of the world. This cultural shift has spilled over into fashion, with weed-inspired designs popping up everywhere, from streetwear brands to runway shows. Designers are taking inspiration from the natural beauty of the cannabis plant and its symbolism of freedom and individuality. Several fashion collections this spring feature botanical prints where cannabis leaves blend seamlessly into their designs. These prints often appear on flowy dresses, lightweight jackets, and casual tees, making them perfect for warmer weather. This allows people to express their personalities while adding a touch of rebelliousness or eco-consciousness to their spring wardrobe. The color green has also emerged as a dominant shade in spring fashion, linked not only to the cannabis plant but also to nature and sustainability. Various designers are using vibrant greens in their collections. This nod to nature and cannabis makes sense, especially as sustainability and eco-friendly practices become more important in the fashion industry. This spring, you'll find green accessories, shoes, and even head-to-toe outfits. Cannabis-inspired fashion can also include sleek, sophisticated pieces that offer subtle nods to cannabis culture. Streetwear brands have been at the forefront of weed-inspired fashion movements. Many of these brands are known for their edgy graphics, oversized silhouettes, and relaxed styles. Cannabis leaf prints paired with slogans like "Stay Lifted" or "High Vibes" are now staples in many streetwear collections. Hang on, drink break.
8 Decades gear and Weedman 420 Street gear too is pretty dope. Check it out on 8decades.com.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took it over.
I got cannabis leaf on my shirt.
And yours is hemp too.
And it's a hemp shirt. It's kind of nice, super comfy. These designs often appeal to younger audiences who are not only fashion conscious, but also want to make a statement about their values or beliefs. The green trend isn't confined to clothing alone. Accessories like hats, socks, bags, and even jewelry are being designed with cannabis motifs. Accessories are an easy and subtle way to incorporate this trend into your wardrobe without going all in on a bold print. For those looking to embrace the weed-inspired look this spring, there are a few key ways to incorporate it in your wardrobe. Start with accessories like earrings or a beanie with cannabis leaf designs for a low-key touch. If you're feeling more adventurous, try a patterned jacket or a pair of sneakers. For an eco-conscious approach, look for brands that use sustainable fabrics and promote ethical production
8
practices.
Decades.
8 decades. Ultimately, weed-inspired fashion allows you to express yourself while embracing a trend that's both playful and meaningful. With its mixture of nature, sustainability, and a touch of rebellion, this spring trend is one to watch. Get some green.
You just bought me a new pair of green shorts.
I did.
I'm excited.
I know.
Fall into the gap.
Good sales.
Right?
Yeah.
You got your nuggets.
I got my
you
nuggets.
Got me. You're like, look at these green corduroy shorts. I'm like, green? I'm in.
Yes.
Wearing my Wee Man shirt. I'll be all good. It's too hot to wear the jumpsuit now. So it was 89 degrees today.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
It was hot. So
not complaining.
No, not at all. We all of a sudden the house got to 80 degrees. I'm like, we have to turn the air on.
Okay, windows
just for
closed.
a little bit. Yeah. Just for a little bit. Just to kid the dog's melting. Well, summer's here, everybody. Well, it's almost here, so we're super excited. Ms. Weedman, you got anything else to say? Because that's the end of the show.
That's it, Mr. Weedman. That's it. Good show.
Great show. We almost went 2 hours.
Oh, geez. I felt like I was talking
1 hour and 55 minutes.
Ooh.
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, everybody.
Thanks for staying with us, though. We love you out there. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.